Hello, and welcome back to the regularly scheduled programming of this channel. Okay, so welcome back to another Thoughts by Jay segment. Getting back to the politics of the US, and eventually I'll start branching out into the world and trying to bring out more people to help me with this. The topic of the day is going back to September 12th, just 2 days ago, when Beto O'Rourke decided to suggest to credit card companies that they need to stop enabling the sales of firearms, and basically trying to pull his weight as a political candidate in the United States to infringe upon your right of the Second Amendment. Now, hold on, Jay, is what I'm hearing you guys say. He's not actually a government servant right now. He's just a candidate. And you're right. You're totally 100% right about that. And that's okay. But the problem is he's running for the highest office in the land. I don't buy that at all. I don't think the presidency is the most important part of the government, but, what do I know? I only study this stuff for fun. Anyways, back to my point. Beto O'Rourke is trying to get credit card companies to deny you the right to your Second Amendment right and the right to your First Amendment right of freedom of speech. One of the biggest ways that people control their freedom of speech, or how they can enact or invoke their freedom of speech, is by spending their money wherever they want. The problem is when you start allowing processors and banks to deny people access to their money, deny people the ability to hold their money, or any of these such things that every person in the United States uses on a daily basis, you're infringing upon their right to free speech. And these private businesses are basically regulated by the government and basically therefore are an extension, in my opinion, of the US government. But Jay, how can you say that? They're private companies, they're owned by CEOs, yada yada. We've bailed them out. We've provided them various bailouts. We have to regulate them as a country. Therefore, they're basically an extension of the government. They hold on to the legal tender of the United States, what we actually use to barter and trade with. They should not be able to infringe upon my right to express my opinion to anybody, much in the same way that they should not be able to violate my right to go buy a firearm. Now, Beto O'Rourke's tweets here show us what he's really wanting to say. Credit cards have enabled many America's mass shootings in the last decade. And with Washington unwilling to act, they need to cut off the sales of weapons of war today. Beto, I can use this as a weapon of war. I can use this as a weapon of war. By your definition of weapons of war, is anything that I can use to kill another person. That is how it's being interpreted. A knife is a weapon of war, a pen, etc. Now, here's the thing. I know what your intent is. Your intent is assault rifles, which Americans can't own. But Jay, what's an AR-15? What's an AR-15? AR-15s are Armalite 15s. They're a style of rifle that do not have the ability to shoot multiple rounds at any given time. In order to make them do that, like any other rifle, you have to basically install a bump stock. Now, assault rifles in the terms of the military is anything that can be switched into burst fire modes and subsequently up to almost full auto. All right. So let's move on to his next tweet in the thread here. Banks and credit card companies must, 1, refuse to take part in the sales of assault weapons. Well, if we're going off of what assault weapons mean in the new 2019 assault weapons ban that has been sent in the Senate and the House, that means any weapon, pretty much, except for bolt-action rifles, single-shot shotguns, and, revolvers. Stop processing transactions for gun sales online or at gun shows without background checks. I can't buy a gun online or background check without it going to, or a gun show without it going through a licensed dealer who would have to provide a background check already. And stop doing businesses with gun and ammo manufacturers who produce or sell assault weapons. So what you're doing is you're trying to disarm your citizenry. You're trying to prevent your law-abiding citizens from invoking their Second Amendment right. Now, what is that Second Amendment right? What is that again? Oh yeah, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia is the fact that anybody can be called upon to defend their free state. Their free state is that of the state they live in. For me, it's Washington. For Beto, it's Texas. For any number of you, it's any one of the 50 states of the U.S. And for those of you that are not in the U.S. and are not citizens, I can't speak to what your gun laws are. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That means that I shall have the right to keep and bear arms in the defense of not just my free state, but my own personal possessions. I have the right to own guns. Now, many of you will say, "But Jay, you don't have the right to have a high-powered rifle to defend your home." You're right. I don't need a high-powered rifle to defend my home. I just need a shotgun or a pistol. But if I want to go out hunting, say the end of technology ends tomorrow, and I have to defend my family from animals and whatnot, I'm going to want the highest powered rifle I can get. That isn't going to obliterate anything. But there's one other caveat to this that many people don't understand, and they poo-poo the idea as soon as you mention it. And that is, I have the right to defend myself from the tyranny of my government. The founders didn't think that there wouldn't be a time where the government would try to overstep its bounds and then try to do something unlawful against the people. So, that is why we have the right to protect ourselves, not just from each other, but from our government. This right here is talking about doing exactly that without the quote-unquote government doing it. Well, that is BS in my opinion. Beto O'Rourke is clearly calling for the social ostracization of somebody who doesn't fall in line with the progressive ideology. He's calling for basically the implementation of the Chinese social credit system. So what happens if you're a proponent of it now for weapons? What happens if all of a sudden the progressive people decide, you know what, no longer do we want to support the option of the morning after pill? Other forms of contraception, sure, fine. But you're no longer allowed to get your morning after pill. Or Plan B, whatever you want to call it. Now your rights are being infringed upon. And it literally gets regressed backwards to the point where we are going to be just like a socialist China. Where we're going to have haves and have-nots. We're going to have people who have, whether they intentionally or unintentionally break the social credit system's rules, no longer allowed to use public transportation, no longer to buy cars, food, etc. because of wrongthink. I'm sorry, but your right to disagree with my ideologies and my beliefs does not mean that you get to deny me the right to express those opinions. It doesn't mean that you have the right to deny me the right to defend myself from people who want to condemn me for my opinions. So, going on this, he has this act.betoo'rourke.com, act.betoo'rourke.com. If enough of us make our voices heard now, we will force bank and credit card companies to act. Add your name to this petition we are sending to Visa, MasterCard, and big banks. I'm sorry, but this is BS. And honestly, it's nice to see Sydney Watson here. I really appreciate that she commented on this. My point to Beto is, what gives you the right to do this? You know, most of these mass shootings are done by people who either get their guns illegally anyways, or they are law-abiding to begin with and something snapped. Okay? Take Sandy Hook. I hate to open up an old wound here. The person who's legally owned those guns, fortunately, the person who got a hold of those guns to commit the shooting lived in the same house. You know? So it wasn't like the person who committed the shooting bought them. The person involved in the Parkland shooting, just what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now? Guess what? He bought his. He was legally allowed to buy it. Yet the federal government failed to step in when warnings were given. The system failed him. The system failed us. So why is your system going to be able to prevent it from going forward? Can you tell me that? You know, I'm not a constitutional absolutist. I believe in the Constitution, what it stands for. I believe in its right, the rights that we hold. Now, I referenced the assault weapon ban of 2019. So you can see I'm at congress.gov under the Senate bill. Ironically, Senate Bill 66. Oh, God, that is a bad Star Wars joke. But look, if you look through here, it tells you exactly what the definitions are. A semi-automatic pistol means that any repeating pistol. So I pull the trigger, let go, pull the trigger. That is considered repeating. It utilizes the energy of firing a cartridge to extract the fired cartridge and chamber the next round, and requires a separate pull of the trigger each time. Wow. Same thing for automatic shotguns. Semi-automatic assault weapons. Anything that has a pistol grip. A rifle that has a pistol grip, a forward grip. Folding, telescoping, detachable stock, or otherwise foldable or adjustable in any manner to reduce the length, size, or to any other dimensions, or otherwise enhances concealability of the weapons. Grenade launchers, barrel shrouds. Well, a threaded barrel. So, yeah. Any, semi-automatic rifle that has a fixed magazine, the capacity to carry more than 10 rounds, except for an attached tubular device designed to accept capability with only 22 caliber rimfire ammunition. Wow. You know, it's their descriptions here. Semi-automatic pistol has capacity to accept detachable magazine in any one of the following: threaded barrel, second pistol. Who the heck puts a second pistol grip on a pistol? The capacity to accept a detachable magazine at some location outside of the pistol grip. So any extended, I guess. It's just, you know, this bill is basically trying to get rid of your right to defend yourself. Get rid of your right to go to a firing range and shoot whatever weapons you want. So honestly, barrel shroud means the means of the shroud to attach to or partially encircles the barrel of fire, so the shroud protects the user from The firearm of heat generated by the barrel does not include a slide that partially or completely encloses the barrel. This whole thing with trying to get rid of our rights, with trying to get rid of our ability to do whatever we need to do to defend ourselves, is driving a wedge in this country. Yes, there are bad people. Yes, in the cities, you don't necessarily need to stock yourself with guns because you have the police department. But what happens when the police aren't able to show up at your house in time? You know, the fact that criminals can sue you for shooting them when they're breaking into your house is unbelievable. So, with that, with all this, I just wanted to say, Beto O'Rourke, you can get bent. You're not going to be a presidential candidate this year. I highly doubt you're going to make a VP candidate. And to be honest, I really, really hope that the credit card companies have enough sense in their brains of the CEOs not to do this. Because if they do this, I don't see any way we're turning back from the social credit system. At which point I can be denied the ability to buy needed medication for myself, my wife, my dogs, anybody in my family. I'm not going to be able to provide for myself because of wrong thing. So, welcome to 1984, or at least the start of ever encroaching 1984. You may think this is hyperbole. You may think that I'm just, blowing something out of proportion. But I'm not. I'm truly not. And I really hope that those of you that disagree with me on this will hear me out on this. But the fact that I'm actually attacking his opinion, they probably won't. They'll probably be like, oh, screw him, run away. So, with that said, take care, have a great one, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.